Frank Turek warning everybody. We're going to Frank Turek.
People might say, well, why didn't God create a universe where everyone believed then? Why does he have
Yeah, people might say that. That's not a bad question.
to create a universe where some people don't believe? Well, just because it's logically possible that God could create a universe where everyone believes doesn't mean it's actually achievable.
Wait, I thought your God was omnipotent, all-powerful. And all-powerful, the limit that modern philosophers put on this is that, well, everything that's logically possible, God can do. He can't make a married bachelor or a square circle. Of course, those are logically impossible. But everything logically possible, my all-powerful God can do. Frank just said, well, sure, it's logically possible that God could have made a world where everyone believed, but it's not practically possible. Or maybe he couldn't. Are you limiting your God, Frank?
Because even though God is all powerful, he can't force free creatures to do what he wants. Otherwise, they wouldn't be free.
Oh, well, you've put a qualification in now that wasn't part of the original question. Because the original question wasn't talking about can you make free thinking, can you make the whole planet full of free thinking believers? Because now, Frank's saying, well, free things you may not want to believe. But here's the thing, Frank. Belief, you absolutely could make a planet where everyone, and I'm going to fall into the same trap as Kurt, but, anyone who's, everyone with full faculties and full sensory perception, because, of course, without any kind of rationality, you wouldn't necessarily do anything. But let's limit the scope to people with full use of their senses and faculties. You could make a world where everyone believed God existed very easily. You could have God show up every morning when the sun rose, do something goddish, say something, or you absolutely now you can't make everyone love that God, but you absolutely could incredibly easily, if you can make everyone who believes in the sun, the existence of the sun, could absolutely believe in the existence of God. It's just, that's a no-brainer, right? Absolutely. Now, this whole free will part, Frank wants to talk, and William Lane Craig and others, they like to talk about how God has middle knowledge, where that is, not only does God know everything that will happen and has happened, but God is also aware, because he's aware of all true propositions, God is aware of all possible alternative timelines. So in a timeline, for example, where I was born with brown hair or red hair or a foot taller or a female or I could be born, all kinds, any different variation. God would know in all those variations, in which of those variations would I come to accept him and which of those variations would I not. God has all the middle knowledge. Now, I accept that perhaps there is no world where, of everyone's free will, that everyone on the planet will accept and will love this God. But here's the thing, because God has this middle knowledge, God knows in advance all the people who will believe him freely, and he knows in advance which people won't love him freely. Therefore, an all-powerful God could choose to make only the people who will accept him freely and not bother making the people who won't accept him freely. That violates no one's free will of any kind, because everyone you created would have, in other circumstances, accepted him anyway. Problem solved. And in fact, why do we even need Earth for that? Why couldn't we just have made everyone straight in heaven? And God just God chooses to instantly have the people who would have believed in it be there in heaven, and all the other people just didn't need to exist anywhere. What's the matter with that, Frank?
So any universe God creates is going to have some people that don't trust in him. But
no, I just described the universe where God just would not make the people who of their free will wouldn't trust in him. Easy.
Does that require God to create nothing because some people freely choose to reject him? I don't think.
No, God has no requirements. God can do whatever he wants, and that's fine. If there is a creator God, that God can absolutely do what they want. However, if you also want to tell me that God is all loving, if you want to say that God is all knowing, and that God is all powerful, then you're starting to get into the realm of contradictions here. Because if hell is eternal conscious torment, and God knew that I was destined to be there, then I don't quite see how it's all loving to allow me to exist here. And it's fine. Maybe there's a bigger purpose, and maybe my cautionary tale is going to somehow, influence thousands of people. Fine, great, but I'm still going to hell. And God could have found other ways to influence those people. You're sidestepping the question here, Frank. And Anyway, I'm not going to go there.
So,
All right. So that was Frank sidestepping the question. Don't let a Christian get away with these bad examples. The other thing that with the free will, of course, Satan, Lucifer, and his angels, if all those stories are true, they also had free will and also had full knowledge of God. They had absolute full knowledge of God and still were able to make a free will choice. So God can make creatures that both have full knowledge of him and still make a free will choice about whether to love him. So any excuse that Frank wants to give about this world is just unsatisfying.